Welcome back. In this first lecture of our second week, we are going to continue with binary arithmetic, focusing specifically on subtraction and division. So by the end of this lecture, I should be able to perform binary subtraction as well as binary division. Right, so let's take a look at some subtraction facts. 0 minus 0 is equal to 0, 1 minus 0 is equal to 1, 1 minus 1 is equal to 0, and 0 minus 1 we need to borrow. So let's take a look at some examples. Solve the following, those three questions. Now let's start with the first one. We are asked to find 11101 minus 1011. Right? 1 minus 1, that will give you a 0. 0 minus 1, you would need to carry. So you will carry from this one. This becomes a 0. That one becomes a 0. And that one becomes a 2. All right. So this one becomes a 0. And this becomes a 2. All right. So we'll say 2 minus 1. This will be 1. 0 minus 0, that will be 0. 1 minus 1 will be 0. And we bring down this 1, becomes 1. So our answer becomes 10010. If you want, you can check by converting this one to decimal and this one to decimal. You subtract them and check whether this one will also be its decimal equivalence. So that's how you do it. All right, moving on. Let's look at the second one. Here we have 0 minus 1. It can't, so we need to borrow. When we are borrowing, we borrow from the non-zero digit to the left. So we'll come and borrow from here. This becomes a 0. And when we borrow from here, this becomes a 2. All the other zeros in between this and this will become 1s. So this will be a 1. This will be a 1. All right. So now we'll say 2 minus 1, that will be 1. 1 minus 1, that will be 0. 1 minus 0, that will be 1. 0 minus 0, that will be 0. 1 minus 1, that will be 0. So that's how you do it. When you borrow, this becomes a 0. All the intermediate zeros become 1, and the last 0 that caused us to borrow becomes a 2. And then you go on to do the subtraction. All right, so let's move on and see how we solve the third one. All right, now we are here. We would say 1 minus 0, that's a 1. 0 minus 1, it can't, so we need to borrow. We need to borrow here. So that means we'll come and borrow from here. When we borrow from here, this becomes a 0. This becomes a 2. And this becomes a 1. Now we'll say 2 minus 1, that will be 1. 1 minus 1, that will be 0. 0 minus 0, that will be 0. And here we have 0 minus 1. It can't, so we need to borrow from here. This becomes 0, and this becomes 2. So then say 2 minus 1, that will be 1. 0 minus 1, it can't, so we need to borrow, and we'll borrow from here. This becomes 0, and this will become a 2, and this will be a 1, and this will be another 1. Now we'll say 2 minus 1, that will be 1. And here we'll say 1 minus 0, that will be 1. 1 minus 1, that will be 0. 0 minus 1, it can't, so we'll borrow from here. This becomes a 0, and this becomes a 2. We'll then say 2 minus 1, that becomes 1. That's how you get the answer to this one. Right? So you need to know that when you are borrowing, you borrow from the first non-zero digit, and if there are any in between zeros, you have to make them, they will become 1s, and the last 0 will become a 2. Right, now let's move on to division. Let's suppose we want to divide this one by this one and this one by this one. Let's see how we'll do it. The concept still remains the same as how we divided decimal numbers. All right. Now let's come here and see how we would go about it. Right. We start from here. 11 into 10, that's it. It can't. So we go to 101. 11 to 101, that will be 1. And we write the 1 just on top of the last bit on our number. So that would be 1. 1 times 1, 1, that would be 1, 1. We subtract here, 1 minus 1 will be 0. 0 minus 1, we need to borrow from here, so it becomes 2 minus 1, which will be 1. Right? Now we bring down this 0. 1, 1 into 1, 0, 0, that will be 1. We multiply there, we'll get 1, 1. We subtract, this will be 2, that will be 2 minus 1, and this will be 1 minus 1, that's 0. So this will be 1. Right? Now, after this is a 1, we would now bring down this 0 here, and then we say 11 into 10, or 1, 1 into 1, 0, that will be a 0. Right? And then we bring down the other 0, because even if we were to multiply this 0 by 11, we're going to get 0, and then we subtract, it was still going to remain 1, 0. So we bring down this other 0 here. Now, 1, 1 into 1, 0, 0, that will be 1. 1 times 1, 1, that will give us 1, 1. We subtract 1, 0, 0 minus 1, 1, we would get 1, because this becomes 2, this becomes 1, so that will be 1. And then we bring down a 1, and 1, 1 into 1, 1, that will be 1. Multiplying by 1, 1, we'll get 1, 1. Subtracting the 2 will give us a 0. So that means our answer now becomes this one, and there is no fraction, or there is no remainder. Take note that there could be a remainder, just like there can be remainders in the decimal number system. So we still apply the same concept. Now let's take a look at this other example. 11101 into 1110111 etc. All right. So 1101 doesn't get into 1, doesn't. It should, at least we start comparing at the same number of bits, because these are 4 bits. It can only get into a number that is at least 4 bits also. So we come here. Now we see that this number, the first 2 bits are 1s, the first 2 bits are 1s here, and this one is a 3rd bit, which is also a 1. So that means this number here is greater than this one. So this number will get in here once. So we'll write 1 on top of this 0. We multiply by that one, we'll get 1101. We do the subtraction, we'll get a 1 there, because this will be 2 and this will be 0. So we'll get a 1. Right? We bring down a 0. We say 1101 into 1, 0, that will be 0. We bring down another 0. Then we say this one into this, it will still get a 0, because it has fewer number of bits. Then we'll write another 0. We bring down this 1 here. So we have 1001. How many times does 1101 get into this one? It will get 0 times. Remember, though they have the same number of bits, this one is a 1 on the 2nd bit, and this one is a 0 on the 2nd bit. So that means this one is greater than this one. So it will get 0 times. Then we'll then bring down this other one, and this number now becomes greater than this one. So it will get in there once. We do the multiplication, we'll get that same number. We do the subtraction, and when we do the subtraction, we'll get 110 or 110, and we then bring down this one. It becomes 1101, which is the same as this one. So 1101 into this one will get once, multiplying there, it will be 1101. We subtract to get a 0. So that means our answer will be 100011. That's the answer of dividing those two. So we have seen that we can multiply binary numbers just like we can do with the decimal number systems, and we can also divide binary number systems just like we can do with the decimal number systems. All you need to do when you are dividing is to make sure that your decimal, your divisor doesn't have a decimal, a binary point. Like, let's suppose you were asked to divide 1101 by 1.01, something like this, right? The concept will still be the same. Make sure that this divisor doesn't have a decimal point. All right. So how do you do that? You move the decimal point 2 steps there, which means this becomes 101. And you would also move the decimal point 2 steps to the right, which means that would be the same as appending 2 zeros. So that would be 1 0 1 1, 0, 0, and then we divide these two numbers. As simple as that. So thank you and congratulations for completing this first lecture. Let's meet in the second lecture of this week and we see what will be covered in there. Thank you.